Welcome to the Monday, July 21st Select Board meeting. Will you all please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right.
Oh, you getting it? Okay.
I was not made aware of any public comment tonight. Or department comment. So we'll get right to the discussion with possible vote.
Thank you.
For a presentation from Brian, who's going to tell us what we need to know about upcoming trash and recycling.
It may just be helpful to let people know, I mean, we all know that are in this room, but people watching, who Brian Walsh is, and
Why don't you do that? Because I'm not really sure who Brian Walsh is.
that's Brian Walsh.
I figured that part out. That was the easy part.
So, our town administrator applied for and received a grant through the Mass DEP that pays for Brian's expertise to assemble data and answer questions and assist the town in whatever manner he can, which has been a lot, towards this whole endeavor to come out with the best possible trash and recycling contract that we can get to. That's the goal here, and there's just so many more complications in this process. So as you all know, I've been on the trash committee since August 2 years ago. Is it 2 years now for us on the trash committee, trash and recycling? Yeah, I think so. So we're in our second full year? It feels like longer. Here you see Jan Dempsey as a vice chair and Stephanie Bartell. I keep because I have a student who's oh, never mind. I'm so sorry. Has been on the committee with us from the beginning, as has Bill O'Neill from the Financial Board and David Greenbaum from the Board of Health. Both of whom, Bill and Dave, could not be here tonight, but the other members were good enough to come on down. And so with that, introduce Brian to do part one, and I think he'll explain how we've come to this.
Okay. Well, yeah, thanks everyone for your time, for letting me kind of speak to this for a few moments tonight. So kind of from a high level, so I've been working with the Trash and Recycling Committee for maybe close to a year, coming close to a year now, 9 or 10 months. And we've kind of been discussing a lot of these decisions that need to be made in Groveland around trash and recycling service. And we kind of thought it would be a good time to present some more information on a lot of things that we've been talking about over those months, to kind of give some background information of what we're talking about and where we've kind of landed. I should say we, as more of the committee, I've been in an advisory role, sharing information. So part of this technical assistance grant is also preparing this presentation. So we kind of talked about splitting this into two presentations because there's just a lot of information in this world and in this this specific conversation around carts and automation and new contracts. So tonight I'm going to focus on kind of like a high-level overview of why things are important, why this is even a conversation right now, why it's an important one, why there's been this focus on cart sizes in particular, talking a little bit about cost projections by cart size, the funding related to that from the Mass DEP, and where we've kind of the landing spot of kind of a modified program. And the next meeting, the idea was to go into more details on that modified program. That's hopefully a balance between two different programs that the committee feels will work for the town, and then getting into some cost projections of that and showing why fiscally how the kind of that plan relates to a municipal budgeting relative to the other ones. So we can I'll jump into it. So again, this is kind of a high-level overview that kind of defines the work that I do and why the state has set aside funding for waste reduction. And it's largely because of a capacity issue in the state. So you can see on the graph on the screen and in front of you what the projected in-state landfill capacity is for municipal solid waste. And so where it's been at the last few years, I would make a note of, and then where we're expected to be in 2027 is nearly entirely at capacity for municipal solid waste in Massachusetts. We already send around 40 to 45% of our municipal solid waste on rail to other states. So as our capacity dwindles, the expectation is that costs are going to continue to rise the more and more, the less capacity we have in state, and the more that we're going to be responsible for sending out. So this is why Mass DP has waste reduction efforts and grant funding connected to waste reduction, so that municipalities aren't all of a sudden come 2027 in dire financial straits because of this capacity issue. So next slide. So this is Groveland's contract in the previous 5 years. So again, this is before the real decline that we're going to start seeing in the next few years of capacity. Even the last 5 years in this contract, we saw a 26% increase over 4 years of municipal solid waste. Again, that's with a lot more capacity in the last 5 years than we're expected to have in the following 5 years. So it averages out to around like 6.5% increases each year over the last 4 years. So then up next. So just to kind of show that, illustrate this in another way, is this, I want to pull up this language that I've started to see added to a lot of municipal disposal contracts from waste vendors. And it essentially says that they're entitled to additional payment from customer for any actions that increase any costs of the company, any increased operating costs, but not limited to fuel costs, disposal costs, changes in the composition of waste, changes in commodity pricing, or costs of environmental or regulatory compliance. So this isn't in a current contract of Groveland, but this is the kind of language that we're seeing the industry start to use to hedge against the risk so that they can pass off a lot of costs potentially onto municipalities. So again, why we're kind of spending a lot of time thinking about this. Some other industry trends are automation. We've talked about that a little bit before. The way the industry is moving is away from manual collection and into the automated lifts, and then pay-as-you-throw. That's definitely a big effort coming out of like my department, is pushing towns towards pay-as-you-throw. We have 46% of towns in Massachusetts have adopted that, and that's, as people have heard me say in a few presentations, that will directly tie the variable disposal costs to be proportional to the amount of waste generated by a household. And the modified plan, which we'll get into, is kind of a little bit of a tweak on that actually, but I'll get into that. So kind of the crux of this conversation around cart size, 64-gallon, 35-gallon, the reason we, as the DP, have grant funding for that 35-gallon and why that's like our recommendation is really based off the data that we collect. So we collect data from all of the towns who report to us, and we know which cart size they have. So you can see 64-gallon carts here, on average, have over 1,600 pounds per household is the average amount of waste generated by that. And then 35-gallon carts have 1,300 pounds per household. This idea being that people tend to fill up what they have in front of them, and the data bears that out. So kind of where I'll be going with this is the difference here between 64 and 35-gallon carts per household. When the municipality is responsible for paying for that tonnage, that's a real significant amount of savings or costs between having a 64-gallon, everyone having 64 gallons and 35-gallon carts. So next slide. So this is going to be on the next slide too, but just to kind of break down the kind of math that I'm going to be showing on this presentation is taking that at that $103 per ton, at the household number for Groveland of parcels being 2,210 households. I know there's been some back and forth on that number, but that's the number we're using for the reporting purposes. We have the averages of, okay, what's the pounds per household in each of those carts, and then dividing that by 2,000 pounds in a ton, and now so we're getting what's our expected tonnage disposal cost. So you'll see at 64 gallons, one would estimate roughly that would have about $190,000 in disposal costs in 1 year. That 35-gallon cart, if everyone had a single 35-gallon cart, the tonnage is probably going to come around $148,000. So we're talking about a difference in just over $40,000 a year in how much the town's paying for specifically the disposal of municipal solid waste. So, and then this is kind of illustrates what does that kind of look like as we extrapolate it out to the future. So we're kind of following those same trends. So this is assuming a 6% increase in tonnage, which is actually less than what was the last 4 years. What those cost differences would look like. So you can see we're looking at up by the end of 5 years, a $55,000 difference between those tonnage disposal costs, ending up being around a total of $289,000 over the course of those 6 years. So I guess the real thing I want to pull out from this is these decisions in trash and recycling are very sticky. So once this decision's made, it's locked in for the life of those carts, and at whatever rate the cost of disposal increases, the value of savings for waste reduction is equal to that same amount. So as part of like the larger conversation of waste reduction, it kind of grows in value as the cost of disposal increases, which the industry looks like it's going that way. So up next, and then one other just like financial piece, so everyone's like working with the same information on these decisions, is so the Mass DEP has a grant program that pays $30 per household for towns that have go 35-gallon carts. So that would total $66,000 for Groveland if they went for a program that was either 35-gallon carts or the modified plan, with people being able to purchase a second cart with an annual fee. And then they also have a award for 64, but that's only if you go every other week, which isn't really feasible. So really, this important number here would be a 35-gallon plan in Groveland would go with around $66,000 in grant funding for that. For example, and then so Topsfield nearby actually has very similar demographics to you, almost a nearly identical household number, and so they just received a very similar amount in grant funding for this similar program that we'll be talking about. So next. So this is the last slide for me. So kind of the conversation over the course of the months with the committee and the back and forth with the select board and some of the meetings I've attended and the surveys that went out were like, okay, yeah, 35 gallons sounds good. There's a lot of savings there, but based off the survey, a lot of residents simply need more capacity than that. So, but then going into 64 gallons, now you have all those drawbacks of the additional tonnage that the town's then responsible for paying for in this kind of uncertain and rising cost industry. So trying to balance that is this modified plan where residents are provided a 35-gallon cart. They then have the ability to lease an additional cart to have an additional cart for an annual fee, and then having one overflow bag per household. So the thought being that this provides flexibility for residents to have access to the disposal they need. It incentivizes waste reduction. It saves Groveland money and reduces the risk of a trash override. It still has DEP eligibility, so that's $66,000, and is equitable to residents in this like pay-as-you-throw model. So I guess just to kind of sum it up, the trend, the reality that we're kind of been working with towns across the state is the municipal budgets are getting continually eaten up by these escalating disposal costs. A few months or weeks back, Kathleen had kind of crunched the numbers and shared the numbers on how that's been occurring in Groveland and how much of discretionary budgeting for Groveland's being consumed by municipal solid waste management. So the hope is that by we're saving money in this area, obviously that saves money, that frees up money for things that hopefully people would rather spend money on that invest in community, like schools, parks, green spaces, etc., and public services. So that's the whole idea. So this is where I was going to pause tonight because I know I threw a lot of information already. And then the plan was for the next time I come to kind of go a little deep. So I showed the back and forth of the costs of the 35-gallon plan versus the 64-gallon carts. And then next time we can kind of go a little bit more into detail of what are the financials of this modified plan and how would that kind of play out on the projections could play out on a municipal budget. So thank you for listening and your attention, and that's all I got. I don't know if you want to do any questions now or save it, but whatever you guys think.
Yes, I mean, if you have questions on the analysis, on the status of the industry, any concerns about the information, the validity of it, or where it comes from, or how these numbers were created, this would be the night that we'd appreciate those questions. Because when we move on to the next one, it becomes more complicated. So this is to set the stage for why are we doing all this work? Why work? Why is the committee working, going on 2 years now for the next trash contract? We've never done this before. Why now? And this is the why now. This kind of sets the stage. So we realize, because we sit with this for 2 years, almost 1.5 years, going on 2, there's a lot that we just take for granted, but maybe the select board, there's questions on some of the data and what other towns are doing. And if you want us to look at anything else before the next presentation, we'd appreciate knowing that so we can look into it. If you have another town in mind that you've heard about, that they're doing something you want to know more about, that's what the advisory committee is for, to do all that kind of deep dig research and see what it comes out to look like.
All right. Steve, you have any questions for Brian?
I have a couple of questions. First of all, thank you for the presentation. A lot of information here. Just going through a couple of the slides and kind of making some notes as you were providing some info to us. You mentioned that there's 162 out of 351 municipalities that have adopted pay-as-you-throw programs. Do you have a sense of how those are structured? Are they all doing pure pay-as-you-throw? Are they doing a mix? How many of them are limiting you to an initial amount and then doing pay-as-you-throw? What do those statistics look like?
Yeah, broadly speaking, it's definitely the different programs. So broadly speaking, there's a lot of different programs. One of the main distinction is some towns, the pay-as-you-throw programs are maybe just transfer station programs, people that don't have curbside programs. So it really ranges. Some have programs where people have maybe 64-gallon carts, but all of the bags in those have to be pay-as-you-throw bags. Again, it's also shifting now because the shift to automation is kind of changing things. So this is kind of seen as one of the new potential, a newer iteration of trying to maintain this pay-as-you-throw model in this automated world. So yeah, generally there are a lot of different kinds of programs. I think there is, I think I had it in my last slide, like 27 or 30 communities that have just straight up 35-gallon. So we'd also consider just 35-gallon cart communities. For example, Swampscott, I'll speak to the district that I serve in. Swampscott, for example, has 35-gallon carts with the option to have one overflow bag. So so that's actually kind of less capacity. So nothing. And there's like 26 towns, I think, that have that. Concord has a program similar to this, where they can lease a second one. And Topsfield just also adopted this program. Lease maybe is not the best word, but having the ability to have that second cart for an annual fee. And yeah, so I hope that kind of. If you have any more specific, I can definitely get more.
No, it's more just
for next
getting a sense of what the trends look like in terms of how other towns are structuring their programs, whether it's a pure pay-as-you-throw, whether it's a combination,
Yeah.
things like that.
And this is something that has been changing over the last few decades. It's nothing that's really new. I mean, Gloucester's been pay-as-you-throw.
Oh, pay-as-you-throw goes back
Yeah, I
at
mean-
least 20 years, I think. Yeah.
And the reason being is
With the
because it's
towns
just
on the
so,
bottom.
becoming
This
so
slide.
expensive to
Yeah,
dispose
yeah.
of trash.
We can put that up.
And then I guess,
You have a copy of that slide too, right?
Yep,
The one with the blue bars?
yeah, they're gray on mine, but yes.
But, okay, so that, at the bottom, that tiny number underneath each
Yep.
bar tells you the number of towns?
Yeah, that's just for towns that are reporting, so I wasn't sure if there was broader.
Yeah. I'm sorry if I missed a question there, Jason. I don't know if you had a.
No,
Okay,
it's just a
okay.
statement.
Yep.
And then I guess I'll, just staying with that same train of thought for a minute, I know Groveland implemented a pay-as-you-throw program a couple of years ago where you could do overflow bags, right? So that was basically pay-as-you-throw, and when we put the 64-gallon limit in. But we weren't really enforcing it until, I think, earlier this year. Have we looked at any trends, like either in fees or collection data during those time periods, say, this year versus last year?
Do you, I could speak to that if you
Sure.
wish. I mean, having been on the committee when the contract was initiated, the prior contract for Groveland allowed for 4 barrels.
Sure.
And it was Waste Management's suggestion that we were way above where all the other towns in the state were. And they recommended that we go to 2 32s or 164. So we did sign a contract with Waste Management that was to implement that model. I wouldn't have the data about how that model went the first year or two, because the committee hadn't been formed. We assumed that this was being implemented, and I don't have any data that would tell me otherwise. I know that recently, we've looked into it more carefully, based on some residents who expressed concern, saw that there was more trash. I know, in fact, one member of our select board, Mark Parento, raised a concern that there was quite a bit of trash outside one resident, and prompted us to take a little deeper look at this. And recently, this evening, in fact, I had a conversation with Waste Management, with our town administrator, to do a deeper dive into the tagging system that's in play, because at this time, we were not receiving reports from that.
Sure.
We receive a monthly report, or our town administrator does, that shows people who have called or complained. We would get on that. But we were not seeing a report of the tagging system. So we've just recently requested, and they've agreed to start providing that to the town administrator.
Gotcha.
So we're expecting to tie that into the rollout of the recycle bins, which is going to be happening in September. And with the 96-gallon recycle bin, we're hoping that people will take, as Brian pointed out, it tends to be that whatever you give them, this is what the state, and they do have a large survey online with all that data. It's just a lot of data for all the towns and cities in Massachusetts. They do a survey of what they're doing. So I'm glad to give you the website, but it's a huge survey. Rolling out the larger recycle, the evidence from the surveys that the DEP has been doing all along show that people tend to fill what they're given to fill. So we're hopeful that giving the 96-gallon recycle, we'll start to see additional recycling that perhaps is being thrown in trash right now, because residents were only given that initial small 19-gallon, I don't know what the size of it is even, 19-gallon bin, yeah, the green bins. You've seen them, right?
Yep.
That's what everybody was given years ago. I want to say maybe 20 years ago. It was quite a bit ago. Mike's nodding too. I think about 20 years. And at the time, we thought this was fabulous because prior to that, the only recycling in town was run by volunteers down at the town hall. We all drove down and we were unloading our cardboard to these residents who were volunteering and sorting it for us. And this was the first step towards curbside. And we, in the subsequent contracts, no effort was made to update those carts or to bring those bins to a cart. This is the first step to assigning an actual 96-gallon recycle cart to every resident that is receiving curbside recycling services. So we hope that, like, with the combination of the rollout of that and the report on tagging, we hope to see a inverse relationship.
Yeah, I was more just curious if, because I could be wrong, but I don't think Waste Management was really enforcing the 64 barrel limit, and we started to see an uptick in that, I think, earlier this year, where they were enforcing it and actually tagging if you were over.
Right.
Yeah.
So it would have been good to see, like, comparison year over year. Like, once we started enforcing it, did it change anything in terms of
Yeah.
how much we had? But
I
it
would
sounds like maybe.
I would imagine it probably would, like, anecdotally.
Yeah.
So I guess it is like something to note is that even if you do like this, like go 64-gallon carts and had enforcement of a single overflow bag, odds are you'd see a reduction from where you are now. Or at least you'd be very like right now, essentially you got your numbers, pounds per household, are pretty aligned with 64-gallon cart sizes, which is interesting based off the data because a lot of people said they use less. So realistically, some people are probably using less than 64.
And some
Some people are using more. But then the hope being in a pay-as-you-throw program takes that same kind of idea and then kind of condenses those savings. The 64 versus 35 would still be that like $40,000 a year disposal. 40 to 50 later would be the disposal. So you would probably still see a reduction based off 64s. See a larger reduction in disposal costs with like the 35 to modified. So in my next presentation, I kind of like have some numbers on like, oh, what would the costs look like if 50% of the people had a second barrel? Or 20%, so we can kind of like play with that next time.
Yeah, and that's something that was going to be a follow-up question, but I'll save it for next time in terms of, it sounded like you said, the majority, based on the numbers, it seems like the majority of residents are using 64. So then the question becomes if we structure this around 35 and everybody goes out and gets a second barrel, do we recognize less cost savings? I know we're going to offset it with an annual fee, but is that actually going to offset?
Actually, yes, that's a good question, and yeah, we definitely can get into next time. But two things is, even though I think the survey is important, it probably runs high. People tend to overestimate based off how much trash they use rather than what's actual measuring there. And it's, yeah, like I said, it will actually be an interesting part to go into next time with the fees in a sense of actually if more people do it, at least a second cart, it wouldn't really affect it would actually be kind of good for the town because you might be recouping depending on what you set that fee at. So it's in an interesting way, like, but obviously the goal is to not have people have, at least from like the waste reduction perspective, not have that second cart. So all that to say is the program from a financial standpoint wouldn't get blown up if a lot of people lease that second cart. But from a waste reduction standpoint, that would be it would be less than ideal.
Yeah, and I guess just an observation, not so much a question. I guess the other thing that worries me a little bit is right now recycling is unlimited, right? And I know for myself, I put out 2 64-gallon barrels of recycling every week. That's going to go down, so that information that recycling has to go somewhere. And I'm curious if that's going to create a different issue that we're not thinking about.
Yeah, that could be an interesting because we also do have the town's recycling tonnage, so I can try to pull that for next time, seeing if most people are a little what's the average amount of recycling that each person's putting out. So that would be an interesting thing to.
And I can help provide that data because we do have our analysis because every time we get the bills in, we do try and track exactly what the curbside fee and what the tonnage is, and then what the rate is based upon our contract. And we had that for at least the last 4 fiscal years in this type of format. And
That
there's
would be
like a
great.
tonnage column, so and it's the same for recycling as well. So I can provide that information to the board, which might coincide more with, our financial situation if the board would like.
I think it'd be great.
Could you also pair that up with the money collected from the overflow bags?
So we do, we have the collected revenue, so I do have that information readily available for fiscal year 25, 24, and 23, all the way to 22 when it was implemented, so we do
Perfect.
have
I
that.
think that would be a great thing to look at.
Yeah, and that actually.
What you
yeah.
first asked for.
So-
Exactly. And then that kind of flows into the last question, just on the modified pay-as-you-throw plan, just wanting to understand the one overflow bag per household, if it's paid for, because people are paying for those overflow bags. Today, they're unlimited. So what's
Yeah.
the logic behind the one per household?
That comes more from the committee, I think.
Okay.
So, obviously, the biggest thing that we're moving towards is the automated pickup.
Yep.
So if you put down several additional bags, that negates the automated pickup.
So it's driven by the automated.
Our understanding is that one bag can fit on top of the trash cart, and be lifted with
Yeah.
automated,
So-
without the driver having
On
to
top of
get-
a 35-gallon?
Yeah.
cart?
So
That's
remember
what we're
That's what
hopeful
Concord
to,
has
yes.
with Waste Man, so Concord, I believe they have Waste Management as well. That's their, and current setup. So this will be an interesting thing going out for your contracting is some haulers might say, oh, we'll pick up another one for an additional cost. We won't pick one up unless it's on the top of the top of the cart. So that's going to be a kind of a conversation with the haulers. But generally, the trend that I've been seeing has haulers saying, yeah, you can put that overflow bag on top. They probably won't charge for that. And then some may not pick up anything off that because they don't want anyone getting out of the truck. Or some might pick up another bag, but they're going to charge you. They're going to charge you for the guy to get out of the truck to get that. Okay. Yeah.
So it's really twofold, though, because the whole goal is waste reduction. And so if you're limited, you tend to be a little bit more mindful in how much trash you're going to generate.
Yes.
And that's what a lot of this is really about.
Yes.
Is making people aware of how much trash they generate, how they can stop being focused on making everything convenient and creating a lot more trash, and taking a little bit more time to create a little less trash.
Yes.
And Jason, if I could add to the conversation?
Great submission.
Thank you. So, similar to what you asked about, Steve, I looked at like other towns. I looked at this gigantic survey that you do. And what I noticed, what jumped out at me the most, was that towns that are small like us, not that many tend to have curbside pickup. A lot of them have either some kind of pay-as-you-throw like Merrimack does, where people are buying the bags and doing something like that, or transfer stations. Because of how small the town is and the cost of implementing curbside pickup in your tax rate. Groveland, started a long time ago with this being part of the town's services. So, our endeavor is to continue to provide this service in a fair and equitable manner, so that everybody is serviced in the town as they're accustomed to be. But we'd be remiss if we didn't point out that the cost of this type of service in a small town is statistically much higher than in a bigger city. It eats up a lot more of the discretionary, and I call it discretionary, it's not discretionary budget, it's our town departments, the things that aren't automatic assessments that can't be voted on for us to have to pay without our saying yes. Like the school assessment, 2 towns can vote it through and we have to pay. Retirement assessment, that's a done deal, we have to pay. Insurance, we have to pay. So when you start to boil down our, $22 million budget to how much of it we can actually move things around in to try to offset a cost that far exceeds 2.5%, there's very little places to go. You're talking about human services, you're talking about the Council on Aging and the Board of Health, and then you're talking about public safety, right? So you're getting into some really difficult decisions, and we balance within a very small amount when we balance our budget for town meeting. We don't have a lot of leeway. So to rethink how trash is charged and how we set up for the next decade, really, to take the time to really pull it apart and rethink it, and then say, okay, let's give everybody the services they need, but let's structure it so that we're not taking away from other services in town that are equally or perhaps more valuable to the residents of the town. The question comes up every year is, why doesn't Groveland ever have enough money for the school budget or for this budget? And we're always saying, we just don't have the money. We don't have the money. Because we have costs that are outside of our control. And trash, this committee has identified it as one of those costs. It's been going up more than 6% a year on the tonnage in the current contract. More. Okay, so the only way we've been able to afford it is by a lot of work from our financial team here, helping departments stay within their budget, and a lot of sleepless nights for our town administrator while she hopes and prays that everything falls into place and balances. So this would give us a really great tool for the next decade. And that's why it's well worth a few nights of presentations. And definitely the survey is worth looking at if you want to see for yourself how many towns our size actually have curbside pickup.
Well, as I said from the beginning, a 35-gallon container for trash is not enough. And then you get, on this sheet, 164-gallon collected every other week. What's the difference? There isn't. It's like a 35-gallon trash barrel picked up every week.
We would just offer that as another thing we'd provide grant funding for, but I don't know if maybe there's one community that does 64 gallons every other week.
For the next meeting, could you figure out an automated pickup, 164-gallon trash every week? And so it looks to me like the recycling committee for about a year has met, and they've decided on the 35-gallon trash barrel. Well, anybody that didn't realize when this started that they were going to recommend the 35, they're living in fantasy land. I knew right from the start, when I'm listening to it, they're going to recommend the 35. But the people, if you look at the survey, not only looking at the survey, but drive around the town on trash day and look what people are putting out for trash. They're putting out a lot of recycling, but some of them are putting out two 64-gallon trash barrels in a week. And they're not going to squeeze that into a 35-gallon trash barrel. From some of the people in the municipalities that pick up the trash, if you talk to them and they tell you that the people with the 35, they load them up, they smash them down inside the 35 to fit, and then they can't empty it in the hopper, and they have to physically get out and loosen the stuff and then put it in. And that's a fact. If you talk to the drivers, get out and talk to the drivers and see what they have to say. And they'll tell you that 35 is not going to work. It slows them down. And if you give the people the option of a container with a throwaway bag, a pay-as-you-throw bag, whatever they call it, you're going to have to get out of the truck and throw that in the vehicle. What's that saving as far as time goes? So see if you can come back
Yeah.
in the next meeting, a 64-gallon.
I do want to,
Every week, picked up every week.
Mr.
I should
Chairman,
actually note,
point of order.
Because
Point of order here, please.
Point of order.
Yes, I think that in showing some respect to our guest who's, is being provided to the town through a grant, and the beginning of the presentation for the first slide, if one was paying some attention to it, you would see that tonight, the overview is about the Massachusetts capacity problems the trends in the municipal solid waste management, the rising disposal costs.
Further point of order, Mr. Chairman.
I'm
Hold on
not
just a
done,
second.
please, thank you. You had the floor for a while. Why cart size matters, which I think is an important concept to understand. Groveland's cost projections, Mass DEP grant funding. And then the next meeting was where we would get into scenarios. And I would also point out that with respect to the volunteers that have been serving on the Trash and Recycling Committee for well over a year and putting a lot of honest and additional time, not just in the meetings, but on their own time, and serving the public and serving the residents, that we listen to the survey, we're taking that into account, and to judge us and say that we don't know what we're doing, and this is what's going on in the town, when you yourself haven't read through all the materials, and you
Well, that's
clearly
what we're here.
didn't
We're here to get
listen
the
to the
information.
beginning of this
So
information.
Kathy,
Yes,
Point of order, Mr.
Ed
Chairman.
has the ability to speak his mind,
yes.
so I don't see any problem with what he's saying, because it is his opinion, it is information that he has gathered.
Except he said that the
Point of order,
committee.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, please.
My colleague is not stating a point of order, she's doing a statement, and that has nothing to, state her point of order, not,
My point of order is that at the beginning of this presentation, this was explained that this is the material that was going to be covered, and then what would be covered at the next thing. And the request was to look through the information provided tonight and to let us know if you have questions on the information
Right,
provided
which is what he's
tonight.
done. Although his question wasn't clear, and Brian was just asking for him to clarify what he actually wanted.
point of clarification maybe on my end, that might have, if I may. Just, and then if I'm missing it, I can come back with more information, but I just want to clarify that the cost estimates that I provided in the first few slides, entitled 64-gallon cart, is for every week pickup. Both of those are for every week pickup. That line about 64-gallon for every other week pickup is just for grant funding. The only way we would fund 64-gallon carts is if you did every other week. So maybe it was confusing that I didn't delineate that. But yeah, just to be clear, all of the cost estimates already there for the 64-gallon are for every week pickup. There's no cost estimates for every other week pickup. You're right in the fact that they would probably be close to 35-gallon tonnages. So yeah, I think a lot of the idea here being trying to balance. Again, your points about some people needing additional capacity, and this providing an opportunity for them to have additional capacity while also recognizing that 10 years down the line, this has a lot of municipal impacts to it. But if there's any other specific data, if there's any other specific data, I'm happy to get it, but I just want to clarify that point.
yeah, and reading in the paperwork here, you keep mentioning the landfill. Ours doesn't go to a landfill, it goes to the incinerator.
That's the same study. Again, my apologies for the lack of clarity. The capacity study is including landfills and waste-to-energy facilities in the state of Massachusetts, which are also, they're pretty much at capacity. Most of them are right around 98% capacity, which is essentially full because they need some downtime. So yeah, again, my apologies. That landfill, the municipal solid waste capacity is referring to total capacity from both landfills and waste-to-energy facilities. Good question.
And I'll just state again for emphasis, 35-gallon is too small. It won't work. A family of one or two people, that'll be fine. But not for families in the town of Groveland that you'd be asking them to go into a different expense now, an additional expense for throwaway bags. Well, some of these people, if you look, have you gone through the town of Groveland on trash day and see the amount of trash that people throw out? There's no way that you can get a lot of that in a 35 and also one overflow bag. And it looks like you're only planning on one overflow bag for a household, and that's not enough. What are they gonna do with the rest of the stuff? That was the question. what are they gonna do with the rest of the stuff? The rest of the trash?
Well, that's-
If
that's
they
what
can't
we
get it
have
in
to
a,
do
in a
individual.
35 and one overflow bag, where are they gonna put it?
Overflow
That's gonna be up
bags.
to the individual, whether they take it to the transfer station themselves or how they dispose of it. And this is not something that they're planning on, he's just pointing out, different things that different towns have done, just to educate us on what's being done and how to curb the cost that we are eventually gonna be passing on to our taxpayers. Whether it's a cost that's fixed, because we pick up all the trash and we just go for overrides to get more taxpayers' money to pay for it, or if we try to deter people from throwing away so much trash and generating so much trash, so we can actually control some of those costs and continue to operate without having overrides. That's what the whole discussion is about. It's not about what we're actually gonna be doing at this particular time.
Well,
This is
I'll-
all about information.
I'll tell you where the trash that they don't get a chance to throw away because they don't have enough capacity, it's going to the remote areas of the town like it did before.
Right, and that's definitely a possibility. I mean, a lot of this is conjecture. There's a tremendous amount of towns that are using the 35 gallons. Are they having those problems? Have you talked to those towns that have those trash? So I haven't seen anybody. I know Hamilton's been using 35-gallon trash cans for better part of 13 years. And that's probably the best model. But they're also very big on composting because they have a local farm that takes a lot of composting. And that really decreases their tonnage, which saves them a ton of money. It's, the first year that they introduced their full program, they saw a 60% reduction in tonnage. That would grow huge for a town like us. And it would allow us to operate for many years without an override. And that's the whole goal, is to get the information so that we can make a decision up here.
Can I just ask for one point of clarification
Yeah, sure.
based on something you said, Jason? In the presentation with the modified pay-as-you-throw plan, it's written as a recommendation. So I'm just going to ask directly, is this the committee's recommendation?
I
Have
can
you
answer
voted on
that.
it?
Okay, so we have not, based on the survey, we went back to the drawing board because we had come to the board with a recommendation, and the survey showed that a lot of the people wanted more flexibility, more ability. So we went back and we've been studying surrounding towns and also going back to Brian for more information on grant availability, tonnage and all of that. So we have not formally voted there's many variations on the modified pay-as-you-throw. For example, Boxford, they went to 64-gallon, and then you can have another 64-gallon. But the first 64-gallon, you have a $175 annual fee to offset the additional tonnage. And then the second one, you pay another $175 annual fee if you want a second 64. So that's what they felt was best for their residents. And so it's difficult because, how do you know what all of our residents really want? We went from a contract with 4 barrels.
Sure.
And it's been a huge step for the residents to get on board with the 232s or the 164. And I'll tell you, I've driven around and I've kind of taken a look and had some things checked to see how we were doing. And now, in conversing with Waste Management tonight, we are going to start getting those reports on the tags. Rebecca will get those. So then if you want to know how our compliance is, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess I was just more
Yeah.
asking, this is
So
written
there's-
as a recommendation. so
Well,
I'm curious if it was a
it's
formal
a title,
recommendation or
it's an overarching title for any recommendation, because we are already pay-as-you-throw because we allow for an overflow bag. Okay, that defines us. So the next step is you're going to make an investment in carts, right? Be the trash carts. That's an investment on the town side. So depending on which you do, whether you go 64, 235s, what other fees, there's all different variations. Steve, it's up to the board what they want. You know what I mean? What you think will work best. I can only tell you from just informally driving around town and noting some things and asking some questions that it's not as it's not as obvious as you would think what size barrels people have. And we saw that in the survey when some of them hand wrote in. I don't really know. There's some 50-gallon ones out there. There's all different variations that, so it might look like someone's putting out too much when they're actually not. And then they have the overflow of recycling, which is, all over the place. Not everybody's putting it in a tall thing. So it looks like they have a lot of trash out, but when you inspect it closer, you say, well, no, that's a lot of recycling. So the really exciting part about this, I know there's a tough decision here about the investment in the carts, and I'm not trying to diminish that. So the term modified pay-as-you-throw encompasses whatever this board decides to vote. And the committee is taking into account as much information as we can. And yeah, we're going to go out on a limb and make a recommendation to explain why. But again, it's going to be the board's decision as to what you want to do.
Yeah, it's an extremely complex
Yes.
problem that we need to navigate. I was just trying to clarify whether this was an example or the formal recommendation from the committee.
It's neither. It's the overarching term for where the next presentation will pick up.
Okay.
Does that make sense to you?
Not really, but I will wait till the next presentation.
Well, no, I'd love to no, I really want to be sure that you don't think that there's something underhanded going on here.
No, not at all. I was
Want to
just-
be as transparent as possible.
On this slide that says modified pay-as-you-throw plan, it's written as a recommendation. It was felt this could be achieved by providing residents with X and doing Y. So I was trying to understand if that was a
Right.
formal recommendation from the
Because we
committee.
already have a modified pay-as-you-throw plan. We have an overflow bag.
Okay, so this is a recommendation from.
Well, we've already have it. So, yeah, we're going to be following along the lines of a modified pay-as-you-throw program will be what's
Okay.
presented. But you'll be given different scenarios.
Sure.
So that you'll have information so that if you don't agree, you could say, well, I kind of like this better.
Right,
you
so
know.
this I guess maybe we're splitting hairs a little bit, but.
Yes.
This has specific recommendations, 35-gallon cart, additional cart for annual fee, residents would still be allowed one overflow bag. Has the, I guess it's a kind of. a
Committee
yes
has
or no.
not voted that. We've discussed it.
That's all that was
Right.
what I was trying to get.
Now,
at.
is there anything that the select board would like to say? I know Ed had his say that he doesn't want people to have just 135, even if that's what they want, or is it, I guess I'm trying to get feedback for this committee, for the people that are here tonight, for myself as well, so that we come back with everything you need to see. What can we do for you now?
Well, before we go there, let Becky ask
Yep.
any questions that she might have of Brian.
Okay.
Gave me a good chance to take some notes. So, first, the landfill capacity. This is super concerning. There is no doubt this will play into costs just based on the simple concept of supply and demand. On this one here, I just want to confirm that the future cost analysis is based on trends, not taking into account the language of unknowns here, added to the current contracts, including the landfill capacity future limitations, right? This is something that could play into that. That's a fair statement?
Yes, I chose, to be totally frank, the 6% based off the last 4 years
Right.
as a relatively, I think, potentially conservative estimate. But so it could range from anywhere from 4 to up to higher. But yeah, so it's not explicitly taking into account the other
Right,
information.
right. No, I understand that that's an estimate, but I think it's important for people to understand those unknowns. Yes. Anything on a contract with an unknown is a slippery slope. And I think it's important also that based on this information, residents will pay one way or another, either individual households needing a second cart or overflow bag, or among all the residents, no matter how little they contribute to the tonnage, these prices are going up, period. So a couple of questions. Are there any discussions on weight limit? So I saw that Ipswich has a 35-gallon limit or 50-pound limit, which was kind of interesting to me. I don't know how they do it, but just,
I'm honestly not sure how they enforce that limit
Right, right.
either. I can reach out to Marlene, but
I was just curious how they did that, because it's interesting, I know Mr. Watson brought up the 35-gallon and crushing things down, so I'm wondering if compactors, people would make it heavier as far as the weight goes. If people get an additional 35 cart, that will not be covered under the grant, is that right?
that's correct. The second cart wouldn't be, but the initial $30 per household. Yeah.
Excellent. And then the 64-gallon cart grant only applies if we go with every other week, because the purpose of the grant is to try to control the amount of waste.
Yes,
right?
that's
Okay.
correct.
And let me see, and I saw the one overflow bag, regardless of how many carts. What size are the overflow bags?
I think it's 32 gallon, 35 or 32?
35?
It's pretty good size.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then does this concept potentially lower the number of trash days? Because I know Mr. Watson brought up, look, go to the trash days every day of the week. Would this potentially?
From my experience, that is definitely more of a conversation that will be between the hauler and the municipality based off the contract, the negotiation process. And I mean, this could influence it in some way, but that's very hard to say just based off a plan. It will definitely depend on the hauler that you guys end up
Right.
selecting.
Okay, there's potential though, because you have the automation, and if it's less amount, I know, I'm not going to hold you to it. I'm just saying it'd just be nice not to see trash every day. And then a couple little comments. Could Groveland use their Groveland events like Groveland Day and Pumpkin Fest to collect and monitor trash and recycling, just to kind of help people understand how much waste is made at those events? And then thinking about some creative recycling options, like town-sponsored paper shredding, cardboard collection bins at the town hall parking lot, or working with other towns. I know hazardous materials, Newburyport has something, but just, I think being creative with recycling may help people that have a lot of recycling, right? Because the 96 gallon, I get it, I've seen some of those recycling things that are put out now with the unlimited. So if we could maybe look at ways to be creative with it, it'd be interesting.
Actually, if I might add to that, I think that's a great point. And when it comes to funding for that, so I guess it's a smaller source of funding, so I didn't include it in here, but kind of another source of funding is the Recycling Dividends Program, which people may or may not be familiar, which is where Groveland and towns, based off how many waste reduction activities they engage in, they get a per activity dollar amount as part of a separate grant. So for example, one of the categories is pay as you throw, and this would gain Groveland 4 additional points. So a modified pay as you throw program, or this particular program that we've discussed, would have 4 additional points in that category, which I'm, off the top of my head, I'm blanking. I don't know if you happen to know, Rebecca, how many points Groveland currently gets per credit. I should be the one who knows. I want to say around 600 or 800 per point, but I can confirm that. But it would be some multiplier of 4 times, let's call it 600 to be conservative, dollars that could then be spent, and Groveland has that money that rolls over year to year. So that would be additional year to year funding that Groveland would then receive to be able to invest in the kind of activities that you're talking about, giving people more recycling access, composting, et cetera, et cetera.
Excellent. Yeah, because I think it's, it's a lot of money that we're talking about. It's a big shift in what we're doing. But if you just break this down to like a household, like I was a single mom, I get it. At the end of the month, if I had $10 left in my account, that was awesome, right? This is about crunching dollars here. And tough decisions have to be made. Was I able to eat out every week? No way. And I'm not belittling anything. I'm just saying I think it's time for us to really look at this with an open mind. And learn how to be creative on ways that we can really help save residents money in the long run. That's all I had.
Awesome. So you did want to have them ask about the weight limits and how they
Yeah.
enforce that.
Yeah.
I imagine if it's an
I-
arm that's picking it up, it would know. It would be pretty simple, but it's just a speculation, so.
I don't know if, I don't think they have scales in the trucks, most of them. I will reach out to Marlene from Ipswich to get that information. My guess is that maybe it's just something that's in their, that they have, and it's not totally really focused on.
Don't tell the Ipswich residents that.
But it might be to avoid putting like a lot of heavy stuff in.
Yes. Yep, I can understand.
Yeah.
Or if they notice that something seems in violation, I wouldn't be surprised if it's more so they think something like that, a case where this seems to be a violation, then they can have the ability to weigh it and say, this is way over 50 pounds. Don't put that 50-pound dumbbell in your trash.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Perfect. Is there anything else that we would like to see next week?
Well, it won't be,
Next, 2 weeks from now, in the other meeting?
yeah, we're going to try and fit in one meeting of the committee, and then we'd be ready to go to the next.
Meet once a month?
I was polling the committee to see if we could meet next week at the end of this month. So that'll be 2 meetings this week, so that we can jump into August better, because it was actually David Greenbaum from the Board of Health is concerned that we need to get this information to you as soon as possible.
Yeah, 'cause
And that,
we have
yeah,
our
that,
last year in our contract, is that correct, Rebecca? Correct. So, and another thing to point out, which he pointed out, some of this is going to be dependent on what the ultimate negotiations are between the hauler and us, which would be on Rebecca's half. So some of what we decide and what we want to go with might not even be an option. So there's a lot of give and take, and nothing's going to be certain until the end. So, all right, with that, I'm going to very gladly move on to the next, which is Valley Farm Road. We're going to vote to authorize
thank you, Brian.
Select Board to
Yes,
acquire
thank you.
Lot AE on plan titled Definitive Subdivision Plan of Valley Farm dated September 8, 1992.
So as you all recall, this was another piece of land that the town accepted at town meeting and authorized the select board to move forward with the taking of the donated land. So as we had seen at the last meeting, there is a motion in your packet that you will need to read in full in order to move forward with this vote. And then we have a document for you all to sign afterwards. And these are the parcels that are along Main Street when you're going towards the Pawtucket Regional School. They're the parcels that, one line Main Street, and the second is a very small strip of land at the end of Valley Road that goes into the Pentucket Regional School District, so in the back where the stadium is, so it's a pathway that the students can walk from the school behind to the cul-de-sac and down to the street. So both of these parcels are current in taxes, and again, at the town meeting on April 28, 2025, the town did vote to authorize the select board to move forward with the takings of the property.
Right. Mr. Chairman, I could put the motion out if you want for discussion. So make a motion to authorize the Select Board to acquire Lot A and E on a plan titled Definitive Subdivision Plan of Valley Farm dated September 8th, 1992 by engineer S&W Land Tech of Bradford, Mass., recorded with the Essex County Registry of Deeds as Plan Book 287, comma, page 61. There's a slash, is that just error? Plan Book 287, comma, page 61.
Sheets 1 through 3 inclusive.
I have a slash.
Yeah, that's not what's in our packet.
This is as approved under Article 7 of April 20.
Yes, that would be the next thing I read, but what about that slash with the comma? Is that nothing? I want to make sure I read it correctly. I'll go back to again. Recorded with the Essex County Registry of Deeds as Plan Book 287, comma, page 61.
Yeah.
As approved under Article 7 of the April 28, 2025 Annual Town Meeting. Further, to authorize the chair to sign all necessary documents. Is that correct?
I'm just trying to verify what you.
Okay, I'll wait.
Because this was the one that had been left on my desk.
Okay.
Is that the one on your desk, the one that we should be reading?
It should be the same document.
It's not.
Yes, it's the same document.
Is it? Let me see the one that you have on your desk. Maybe there's something, a different document further down.
Let me
Oh,
read
the
this.
motion's on a different page.
Wait. So, okay, I'll read this. So I move that the Select Board accept as gift for general municipal purposes. This is what you want me to read, Jason? Yes? Okay. So I move that the Select Board accept as gift for general municipal purposes as authorized by Article 7 of the April 28, 2025 session of the Groveland Annual Town Meeting, and further to authorize the chair, Jason Naves, to execute and enter into any and all documents necessary to effectuate the acquisition of the following property: the land located off Main Street, Groveland, Essex County, Massachusetts, and being shown as parcels A and E on a plan entitled Definitive Subdivision Plan of Valley Farm, Engineer S&W Land Tech of Bradford, Mass. Scale 1 inch equals 40 feet, dated September 8th, 1992, and being recorded in the Essex South Registry of Deeds as Plan 61, sheets 1 through 3 inclusive, in Plan Book 287. Said land is listed by the town of Groveland as tax lots with parcel ID of 02-002-A and 02-002-L.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous?
And I do apologize, I thought that when
It
I
was
had.
there. It was just further down. The three of us stopped further up on the different.
We were reading the script, the page that's in green in our packet.
Yep,
Oh, my apologies.
that's all right. We got ourselves straightened out just perfectly, mainly, for the most part.
We got through it.
All right, the next thing on our agenda is to approve the approval of a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit sign on Center Street.
And this was a topic that we discussed during the town administrator time. We had a resident that came forward that wanted a speed limit sign placed on the roadway. We did confirm that they don't necessarily want the speed limit lowered, they just would like a speed sign. We did talk to the chief of police, and he did confirm that it is a dense area and that they would be able to put the speed sign there, but would need a vote of the select board to place that sign on the roadway. And this is between the stretch, as we discussed, Seven Star and West Newbury line, where it intersects with Center Street. So there is an area that they would like to add the 30-mile-per-hour speed limit sign.
I recall a slight discussion about whether or not it was going to be digital. Just the standard.
So this would be the
speed sign.
standard sign that they use that says 30 miles per hour.
Perfect. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor? Unanimous. Next on our agenda, we're going to authorize to file loan/grant application for asset management planning project. This is going to be a vote to authorize the town administrator to file applications, execute agreements, and act as the town's authorized representative in connection with the grant and/or loan assistance through the Mass Department of Environmental Protection and the Mass Clean Water Trust for the Asset Management Inventory and Planning Project.
So moved?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Just one quick question.
Yes.
Can you just better define what
Yes.
it means? What assets are we tagging?
Of course. So this was part of a effort that started under the Municipal Vulnerabilities Preparedness Grant that we had done and the work that we had done in terms of trying to capture some of our stormwater infrastructure, our outfalls, our culverts, and whether or not we're maintaining them. As we saw specifically with, unfortunately, the flooding incidents in the prior years, that there's a lot of areas that are very sensitive in nature, and those types of events exacerbate the issue, and that's due to us not maintaining some of the infrastructure that's out there and making sure that they're clean and functioning, and whether or not they need to be updated, whether or not they haven't been updated in quite some time. So this is just another way for us to catalog all of those infrastructures that we currently have and make sure that we are applying regular maintenance and what that maintenance is. So over the years, again, we have not been great at making sure that we have adequate records and centralizing that information. If somebody comes in and asks, oh, is there a detention pond over here, or is there something over there? We'll have to go to the subdivision file, or we'll have to go to the roadway plan and figure out where it is, when it was constructed, if there's a maintenance plan in place, et cetera. So this is just a way to manage and inventory those assets so that we can better plan for the future.
That makes sense and sounds like a really good idea.
And this has nothing to do with the future water treatment plant?
No, it's just under the same program. It's a separate division.
Perfect. Any further discussion?
Nope.
No.
All in favor? Unanimous? Next, we have a request from the United Cricket League for a proposal for installation of an AstroTurf pitch, replacing the original shed.
So I know at the last meeting, and I did extend an invitation for the group to attend the meeting, whether virtual or in person. They are not here tonight, but originally they came forward with an idea, as you had seen in the packet, that they wanted to replace the shed, because the shed was kind of in disrepair. At that meeting, the board had asked a very simple and question we should know: what size are you replacing with, and what is the current size of the current structure? Et cetera. So I went back with that request to get more information as to what they were proposing. And they said, actually, we would actually like to eliminate the shed proposal and move forward with going back to the Astro pitch that would be, or would alleviate their concerns for storage of the equipment. As you see in the packet as well, they show you photos of the different equipment that they had stored in there that had kind of been exposed to the elements and is no longer usable. But you'll see that they have what was currently there by the, or sorry, not currently, what was formerly there by the initial league that sought a permit with the board, which was the concrete turf or concrete pitch. So they would like to do something similar, but with AstroTurf. Currently, they're using clay, which is why they have to put the mats on there to maintain the area. So they're looking to move away from that. And have asked for the board to consider putting that, or being allowed to put that forward. And again, the construction of it is a little confusing to me. I've asked for some clarification. I'm not 100% positive exactly how it's situated. I'm not a cricket expert myself, so I'm not entirely sure. I know what the clay pitch looks like. I'm not sure how that AstroTurf would look like in comparison to what we saw originally with the concrete. I do know that the concrete was very easy to rip out with our highway department when they were no longer using it. I do know that we want to keep it temporary in nature, so if the board would like, I can extend an invitation to the group again to come in and discuss this in more detail. But this was the most information I received as part of the initial inquiry. So I'm happy to table it until they decide that they'll be able to come into a meeting, or I'm happy to try and answer any questions I can with the information that was provided to me.
Personally, I don't have an issue with it because we do have a very flexible highway department, but I don't know how the rest of the board feels.
We have a couple of questions about it. I don't have an issue with it fundamentally either, because it's something we've done before. I guess my question is, if they're installing it, why are we ripping it out?
So we originally took out the original pitch because we had asked the former league to comply with the standards that the select board had voted on, which is to no longer cut our gate lock, to no longer park in certain areas, to they had porta potties that they were leaving open. So it led to misuse, that led to dumping because the gate wasn't open. So we had asked them kindly to abide by what the conditions the select board put forward. They refused to do so. So the select board voted to end their permit, and with ending their permit, they continued to utilize the field. So we took out the pitch so that they would have to come back before the board if they wanted to continue to use the field and abide by the conditions.
So I'm just thinking, if we let them install something, we should find some way to have them pay to remove it if that permission goes away, as opposed to the town having to foot the cost for it. Which kind of goes into my second question around, do they have to carry any type of liability insurance to use that or anything like that?
So they do, as part of our special, or as part of our field use permit, they do need to carry a certificate of insurance. They do need to hold the add the town of Groveland as an additional insured. So we do make sure that they have all of that information. But to your point, very much the question we asked is, what is the protection for the town from having to spend any monies on taking infrastructure out that you're putting in when we don't know what the intended use of the property is for long term?
Sure. That's all.
The, when does their current permit expire?
If I recall correctly, it's in the fall.
It's in the fall?
In the fall. I can pull that permit up too.
So we should get an estimate of what it would cost to get it removed. And would the board prefer to put that into their permit payment,
Yeah, I think so.
or as a escrow to hold whether or not they remove it.
I think something like that would make sense.
I think with the concrete slab, was that dug in? Did they dig in to put that in, or was that pushed on top of the ground?
You can see in the photo that
It looks-
there's forms there.
Yeah, so they dug down.
They,
So it would be good to know, like, how much digging is involved in this. I mean, the depth and the width and the length. It'd be, yeah. It'd be good to know that.
So I think maybe it'd be,
And also, because this is like on the front end of where our wells are, right? What is the material composition of this AstroTurf? Is it okay to put there? I mean, the concrete slab, I assumed nothing was going to go with that, but I don't know what this AstroTurf is made out of. I don't know if there's different types of it or different chemical compositions. We have enough well problems without inadvertently adding to them. So I would like to know that it is environmentally safe to put in that area.
so I'd recommend that they
Yeah.
get together with Sam, so Sam can ask him all the proper questions. And since Sam is much more versed in all of this than we are,
Yep.
he can help guide them to get us the information that we need to make a proper decision.
Yep.
Could I also ask about this? It's a shed, but I'm going to use that term very loosely. Looks like a tent. So is that going to stay?
no, they're going to remove that.
They're going to remove that no matter what? Okay.
100%.
Okay.
As you can see in their email, because that was one of the follow-up questions we had asked as well, is that they, it's eliminated and they can use like a box to put their remaining equipment in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's the pitch part that was probably the biggest.
They were rolling it up.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like
Yeah.
they were stuffing
Okay.
it in there.
Because that shed's just not,
Yeah.
not good.
I can relay that and I can involve Sam and then I can again invite them into the select board to make their pitch for, no pun intended, but make their, presentation to the board as to what they're looking for because I'm not well versed enough and I'm getting the same information you're getting.
I need to
No,
learn
and I
more.
think that's a good way to stop that, is to get Sam involved so he can do a lot of the back and forth and help them get us the information we need. Yes, Ed?
I'd also like to have them agree to return to the original condition when they cease operations. I know that was one of the conditions the last time, and we should include that.
Anything else?
I'm going to learn more about cricket so I know like what they're talking about. I really should know more, but
Pretty popular.
it has to be a homework assignment.
All right, so I don't think we need to table it, we don't need to take a vote, we just discussed it. And we'll discuss it again when they're ready and we have more information. So the next is the policy review, town platform postings.
So the last time the board had made some suggestions on some edits that they would like to see the language that we had originally discussed for the posting for services, products, and events. So I believe I captured them accordingly, but I very well could have made a mistake. So if there's something that I forgot to include or that you would like to include, or now that you've thought about it a little bit more, would like to add, I'm happy to do so.
Did anybody find any additional edits they would like to add or change to this particular policy?
Just one minor thing, where it says the town reserves the right to deny, remove, or limit materials due to space, content, or duration. Should we be more specific? I think originally it said at the discretion of the town administrator or something like that. I mean, I just wonder if it needs to be
Specific person.
specific,
Yeah.
because otherwise,
Otherwise, who is it?
who makes the ultimate decision?
Yeah, town administrator should be put in. That's a good
That
add.
was my only observation. Otherwise, I think you captured everything that I had in mind.
Are you okay with that, Rebecca?
I'm fine with that. Anything that I feel uncomfortable with, I will put back on the agenda and bring before the board.
Excellent.
That's how we know.
So does everybody see this as being fit and willing to make a motion? And
Sure. I'll make a motion that we approve the town posting, or town platform posting guidelines as they're written in here with the adjustment to clarify that it's at the discretion of the town administrator.
One question on the first sentences. You say, I know we talked to Council on Aging and the town clerk, and then I assume that the official posting is the words for town clerk's part of the board. Should we be specific? Right? We talked about the board out there having a set-aside area for Council on Aging and the town clerk. And here it just says the official posting or Council on Aging posting areas.
So we can say they include the official postings of the town clerk?
Yes.
Okay.
Because that way it's, more than clear. Yeah,
Makes sense.
yep. Otherwise, fine, yes.
Do we have a second?
Second?
I'll second it.
All right, well,
Any further discussion?
no.
All in favor? Unanimous. And next, we're going to get a presentation for the butterfly garden. Where it's going to be.
So at the last meeting, I don't know if you want to, oh, okay.
Yay.
On? Is it on now? Okay.
There you go.
There, much better. Jan Dempsey, 33 Uptack Road, and Chair of Library Trustees. First of all, I want to thank you all for giving us a little more time to go over these plans for the butterfly garden that our children's librarian, Evangeline, had wanted to install at the library. And we did discuss it at our meeting, and we talked also with Highway Department about the best location for it. And we've concluded that right now the garden club had many years ago, I can't tell you when, had started a garden right below the bay window as you're facing the library to the right. And it's kind of in disrepair at this point. So what we felt would be the best thing to do was to clean that area up and extend it out a little bit in kind of a curved design, and put in the pollinator plants in that new area and revitalize the old area. So it's actually just going to expand what we have now a little bit. And in speaking with the Highway Department, they felt that that would be perhaps the best way to do it for their ease of mowing, because we don't want to give them another thing to have to mow around. So that seemed to be the consensus of the board. And so the garden club is willing to help us get it started, and then we're working on a maintenance plan. So if you have any other questions?
I have a question. You mentioned pollinator plants.
Yes.
What about the cactus food plants?
The what?
The cactus fruit, the caterpillar food plants? The plants that the caterpillars will eat?
Yeah.
They turn into them? Because the pollinators will be the one that will flowers and the other ones
Right,
won't.
right. And native plants often provide both.
Yep.
So, that's what we're looking for, is native plantings. As we have now with the beach plums, which are native, and you see a lot of activity on those when they're blooming, and also on the leaves. So that is the goal.
Good,
Not just to attract, nectar, but also the food. Absolutely.
And anybody else have any questions?
No.
I think it's great.
So I believe we need a motion to allow them to utilize our land to,
I'll so move that, as Jan described
Yeah,
it.
and we
And agree
we do
with it.
have Dig Safe will come out before we do any
Oh, yeah.
diggings. Just to be sure.
and do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to be discussing Whittier NEC Working Group.
So, Mr. Chairman, as an employee of Whittier, I'm going to recuse myself from this discussion.
Yes, understood. I'm going to look to Rebecca to give a little bit of information about the meeting that we had.
Okay, so we had attended the working group meeting. As you all recall, we had voted to move forward with signing on to a letter for the MSBA to proceed with the project eligibility decision. to see whether or not the communities, the 11 member communities would agree to 3 conditions, one of which was to look at a new regional agreement, and that we would move forward with a feasibility study of the current school in addition to the new proposal, and that we would bear the cost of that proposal. And so now that we have all signed on to that letter and have moved forward to the next phase, the group has started to talk about enrollment and what we would like to see for the enrollment. We had discussed a lot about the conversation that we originally had when the project was originally proposed, which was the capacity or how many students we could send to Whittier based upon those eligible students and the actual enrollment data. And that really guided a lot of the discussion, and it kind of had a whole cloud on terms of like what we would like to see for the number of students that would be eligible to attend Whittier. Throw another aspect into it, we've all recently seen the news about the state and their desire to implement a lottery, which the select board had discussed at one point in time and decided to send a letter advocating that they not proceed in that particular direction. But again, that being said, the group has focused more so now on the enrollment aspect to see exactly what the number of students should be for the cap for the MSBA, so what you're building the school for. And so the original proposal was for 1,400 when the school came about for the first decision for the MSBA and before the town, or 1,200.
It was 1,280. They went back to the original because 1,480, which is what they were put in for, was going to be just too much money, they felt. So they figured they'd drop it down to the 1,280 in an attempt to get the towns to sign on and agree to it.
Correct. So at that meeting, we discussed that how they came up with that number, and you recall correctly, I do not, and that they also provided the town with the data that shows what Groveland enrollment was for the last few years, how many students were waitlisted, how many were accepted, and they also provided the additional data for all the member communities, which you will find in your packet as well.
Yes, and I modified that just a little bit because they didn't have a lot of totals, only on the last 2 years. So I did put the totals with the acceptance percentage. And I think this is the piece of what was missing at our last meeting when we were discussing what we thought we should put forward in terms of a quantity, because we only saw the 200 people roughly that were on the wait list. What we didn't see was the 690 people that applied when only 371 people were accepted as of 2023 to 2024, or in 691 that applied in 2024 to 2025, but 393 were accepted. So there's a tremendous amount of students that are applying that aren't even accepted. And that's where I really had the problem with, because they're not basing the acceptance on whether or not the student needs to be there. And I think that's a very important part of what a vocational school is. But that's my opinion. I did bring up, or attempt to bring up that opinion, and most of the towns were not receptive to what I had brought up, because they were focused on the money, which everybody in the room is financially involved. And it's also one of the reasons why I feel strongly that the school committee makes a lot of these decisions, because they're not financially involved with the town. They're focused more on what's right for the students. But yeah, I don't know if this changes anybody's idea in terms of what they think the starting suggestion for the school should be in terms of size and how many people can be enrolled at one given time. But I'm interested to hear. Based on the information that you have now.
I want to dig into these numbers a little bit more. This is actually what you put together is really helpful. I see some trends, but I don't I'm kind of just looking at them
Yeah, I
quickly,
understand.
so I'd personally like to just dive into it a little bit more
Yeah.
and review it.
I completely understand that. The other question I have for Rebecca is, has anybody else other than Joe Demore or Adam
Haywood.
Haywood put in the request to be on the school building committee?
We have not, we did after that meeting revise the flyer that we originally sent out, and we were going to send it out this week, if that's amenable to the board.
Okay, because I think, I don't know that we need to continue, since we're not getting any response. I think we can go ahead and make our recommendations, unless anybody else has any suggestion not to, or any reason.
If it was going to go out, you said this week or next week?
We were gonna, it's actually on my
I mean, I don't think
schedule
it
to
hurts
send
to
out
see if
again.
anyone else applies before our next meeting.
So another push?
Because we do
pushed it
not,
out twice, right?
we only sent out once, and then per that meeting, one of the takeaways was that we had until September 1st to fill out that survey with the individual that the board wanted to put forward, and if they had any specific
Well, we
qualifications.
have to have that information to them by then,
Exactly, by September 1st.
yes. And so we have to make our decision based on, prior to that, and then we still have to wait until we have a meeting to go over there and give them that information. Or do we just send it right to the school committee? Because the
We would
school
just-
committee's gonna make that.
Exactly, we
decision.
just send it to this, we just need to send it to the Whittier Vocational School Committee prior to September 1st.
Okay.
So we could, if those are the two only candidates, after we make another push at the next meeting, we can appoint Whittier School Building a recommendation at the next meeting, and I can give you all the ones who had applied, and the board can make a decision at that point in time.
Sounds good to me. Does anybody else have anything else they have, any questions?
Do you want to bring the candidates in?
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea when we do the appointment.
Yeah, sure. Ask them to come in. I know I did speak to Adam, and I haven't spoke to Joe yet, but I recommended putting together a little resume, cover letter of why you want it, and then what qualifies you to be on it. Because I think not as much for me, because I do know both of them, but somebody that does offer up and I don't know will be good. But it'll be good to send that along to the school committee, because the school committee won't know these people. And it'll be helpful for them to make a good decision. All right, with that, I think we'll move on to green tip initiatives. So Kathy, if you'd be so kind as to come back.
Okay, so this week, I have with me some familiar things that we all have. And maybe what we don't realize is that these can go in the collection bin at the Market Basket, where you put your shopping bags. And in addition to that, as we look forward, and I know, Becky, you mentioned this, some of the more exciting parts about beginning a new contract is the ability to increase places for people to get rid of excess cardboard, shredded paper, and even this. So it is possible, and it's not ironclad yet, because we would have to engage with this Next Tracks to have collection sites in town for this type of thing. So you wouldn't have to drive, I know, all the way over that bridge, through the stoplight to put all that in there. You could collect it, and then maybe there'd be some collection bins either at the Washington Park, like the clothing, at the water and sewer, and maybe even at the town hall. There is a little bit more of a complication, because this is not something they come pick up from the bins. Next Tracks, we would have to set aside a space. So it's a longer-term goal here. Initially, right now, I would say the green tip is bring this to the Market Basket. If you possibly can, try to remember not to throw out the wrapper from all the 24 water bottles, I don't know, cat food if you buy it by the case, dog food, things like that. You can, anything that they tell me, anything that stretches. And it doesn't have to be clear, it can be colored. If you want to set aside a small bag somewhere in the house, and then when you go over to Market Basket, you can deposit it in that receptacle. And if the town were interested in taking this on as a further initiative, you would need to set aside space for a facility to put a baler in, which could be provided to us, because when these quantities of plastic are baled, they can be sold. It's a revenue stream. So initially, the revenue stream would be used to pay off the baler, so the town would not see that. But if the town were involved in this in a longer term, or maybe combined with another town with it, you could potentially see revenue. So right now, it's just the green tip. Think about not throwing that in the trash, and when you go over to Market Basket, just put it in that container at the front of the store.
Anybody else have any green tips? Becky?
It's cold in here.
No,
Yeah.
not today.
You know, you put the AC on kind of high. We could do with it up
Not at this time.
68 degrees.
Not today.
Nor do I, not today.
We could put the AC up higher, though, because it is kind of cold in here.
Go ahead, it's right behind you.
I know, but I didn't want to override the chair.
Oh, that's fine. I'm comfortable. Next, we have a one-day liquor license for Peter and Ariana for a private event to be held on September 6, 2025, 5 to 9 p.m. at VC Memorial Park.
Everything looks to be in order. I'll move for passage.
Second,
Motion and second. Any further discussion?
congratulations.
Congratulations.
Almost, when it happens.
All in
It's a
favor?
wedding.
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Next is a one-day liquor license for August 2nd, 2025, for Megan Curtis, to be held August 2nd, 2025, 4:30 to 10 p.m.
Okay, we didn't read the last names of the first ones. You couldn't pronounce them?
Yeah, so I figured I wouldn't put you on.
Okay,
We gotta just
I thought so.
Glaze over that and skip it.
okay. I thought so. Everything there looks to be in order also. I'll move for passage.
Second,
Motion and second. Any further discussion?
and congratulations again.
Congratulations. All in favor?
Yep.
Unanimous. Next, we have appointments and resignations. Election staff. Appoint election staff submitted by the town clerk for a period of September 1st of 2025 through August 31st, 2026. And I know I have that list.
You want me to read it?
Yes, please.
2025 appointment list of election staff. Julie Faber, election clerk. Ed Reed, constable. Dave Tuttle, constable. Laurie LeBlanc, warden. Jennifer Close, warden. And the following are election staff: Evelyn Tuttle, Noni Hodges, Laurie Pulaski, Janet Nolan, Irene Thomas, Kathy Alisi, Anna Porter, Judith Gosby, Maria Frederick, Marianne Garofalo, Maureen Lee Locke, Stephanie Bartlett, Rennie Lorette, Deborah Stevenson, Anne Marie Daly,
Bartow.
Nancy Webster, Nancy Fitzgerald.
We have a second.
Second,
Any further discussion?
Nope.
All in favor? I'd like to thank everybody for stepping up and doing that. It's can be a thankless job sometimes. All right, for the police department, I'll make a motion to appoint Robert Huffman of King Street as a part-time officer effective July 7th, 2025, for a one-year probationary period.
second,
Motion and second. Any further discussion? None? All in favor? Unanimous. Appointment of John May of Epping, New Hampshire, as a part-time dispatcher effective July 7th, 2025, for a one-year probationary period.
second,
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Appoint Cherry Victoria of Hampstead, New Hampshire, as a part-time patrol officer effective July 21st, 2025, for a one-year probationary period.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Appointment of Samantha Delacruz of Bradford as a part-time dispatcher, lockup keeper, effective July 21st, 2025, for a one-year probationary period.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Appointment of Justin Phelps of Danvers as a full-time patrol officer effective August 5th, 2025, for a one-year probationary period.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion?
Question. So
Question?
Rebecca, through you, is this an additional person on the department, or is this filling a vacancy of somebody that had retired or resigned?
This is a vacancy.
Excuse me?
A vacancy?
It's a vacancy. Okay.
Any other questions? All in favor? Unanimous. For the Cultural Council, appoint Rebecca McCarthy of Uptack Road to the Cultural Council effective July 21st, 2025 through June 30th, 2029.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Seasonal groundskeeper Tyler Lewis and Bradley Hunter, effective June 23rd, 2025.
Second. Is there a end date? Because it's seasonal. They only work for the summer, right?
Correct.
So should it be effective June 23rd, 2025 till?
So it depends on the school schedule.
Gotcha. Okay. So we'll wait.
To be determined.
TBD.
And then some of them do continue with the work-study program that they're allowed to do as part of their senior year.
Okay.
And we do have the cemetery, which requires fall cleanup, so that's why there's no specific end date, because sometimes that can carry through.
Okay. Oh, the cemetery. So I should recuse myself. Sorry. Can someone else second? I'll recuse myself because my husband's a commissioner.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Appreciate
All
it.
right, motion second and discussed. All in favor? 4 in favor, 1 recusal.
Thank you.
We have no minutes.
Yep.
I don't see anything listed under old or unfinished business.
Could I ask something under that? We spoke about the parade like several meetings ago, but we never really did anything. I'm assuming the select board is going to participate in the parade, yes?
I would assume so.
So an idea that I kicked around a little bit, I bounced it off Becky, was would we be open to inviting all former members of the board to join us in the parade to represent? We still have quite a few former members of the select board in Groveland. I mean, I wouldn't try and go far and wide and haul them back from other states, but the ones that, you know what I'm saying? I didn't want to make it into more than.
Did you want to limit it to the select board, or did you want to reach out to other boards?
Well, I was thinking the select board because I think that it's a weighty position and it's nice to represent people that have served on the board over the last 25 or more years. We have Betty Gorski, Hector Grazio,
Bill Dark,
Bill Dark, yep.
Mark McCabe?
He wasn't select board.
No? Wasn't a long
No.
time ago? Oh,
No, he probably wanted to.
mistake.
No, I don't, no.
Mike Wood?
Michael Wood,
Still
yes.
around, yeah.
Bill O'Neill.
Is there going to be a dress code?
Yes.
We don't know.
Nice.
Matching shirts. usually.
TBD,
How about,
TBD.
well, how about you put something together and the two of you
Well,
come back
Lindsay-
and we'll
Yes.
discuss it further. We'll put it on the agenda for next meeting.
Okay, is the select board members all open to this? Is this okay? I thought it'd be nice.
Yeah, I think as long as it fits into what the parade committee is working on, then I don't see why not. I think it's a great idea.
Okay. Great, thank you. That was all.
Perfect. Town administrator time?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So some updates for you. As you'll see, the first item, the Salem Street Dam, we did receive on July 17th a letter from Mass DEP that revoked the emergency certification that was issued by the Conservation Commission. As you are all aware, in the last memo that I had sent out, the work for the dam had pretty much been completed prior to receiving that letter. In the memo, you'll see that the work completed to date includes the removal of trees to access the culvert pipe, removal of the guardrail near the roadway for access, installation of the PVC liner in the existing failing culvert pipe, removal and replacement of the rotted stop logs, and the placement of stone to buttress the downstream masonry dam wall. There were a few outstanding items that we did not get to complete. Those were the reinstallation of the guardrail near the roadway, the additional stone placement to further buttress the masonry wall, and the placement of loam and seed along the edge of the roadway in disturbed area of work. So we did respond to Mass DEP and alert them that we were in receipt of their letter dated July 15th, which we received on July 17th. We let them know the work that was completed as of date. We let them know the work that was remaining, and we reiterated to them that no work would take place because we plan to file, and due to the receipt of their letter, and that we plan to file a notice of intent with the Conservation Commission on July 24th for a hearing at their August 14th meeting, although I think it's the 13th. And that no further work will take place until we receive an order of conditions. That letter was sent just today, so we have not received any correspondence from Mass DEP in relation to that, but if we do receive any additional correspondence, we will share that with the board. I also wanted to update the board for the Board of Health. As we discussed in what was on the last memo, the town's health agent has resigned, and we have been working with BMA Strategies to put into place a temporary use of the collaborative agreement that we had signed with some of the surrounding areas for health-related shared services. They have been supporting us with the inspector for restaurants in regards to the food establishments we have here in town, but they have not yet put in place the Title V and somebody who has the expertise to be able to assist us with that particular area. They said that they are looking to expedite the process in which they will find a consultant or somebody qualified to assist us in the future. However, that left us in a very serious state where we have individuals who are looking to pull building permits and looking for septic system upgrades or septic system failures that they need to address right away. So in working with BME, we reached out to different communities and were successful in moving forward with both the Board of Health agent for Amesbury and Merrimack, Deb Ketchen, which might sound familiar to you because she was also a former health agent here in town. And she agreed to proceed with performing those necessary inspections and overview and review of plans in the interim until the collaborative can find us regional shared services and/or we find a health agent. But that leads me to the next statement that I had put in the memo, is I do want to again reiterate that we need to look at a long-term solution for this particular position. I know that we have advertised the position. I know that the rate is comparable to other health agents in the surrounding communities, but the hours are limited. So somebody with the proper certifications is not going to necessarily apply for a position at 17 hours a week. They're going to look for something that's a little bit more robust in terms of the hours that's offered for ultimately an annual salary. So we need to figure out whether or not, or the Board of Health needs to continue to analyze whether or not they want to consider regionalization and working with other communities like Merrimack works with Amesbury, or if they want to take a look at maybe potentially combining the current staffing that they have into one full-time position, which would make it a little bit more attractive since the administrative duties are semi-light in relation to some of the inspections and other things that we need in that department. Or there could be other options that have not yet been discussed, but again, something to consider and something that the Board of Health should consider as well. Another staff update is just to let you all know that today we welcome Jonathan Sullivan as our new town planner and conservation agent. For the recycling cart update, I did want to let you all know that we are proceeding, and as stated, we will hopefully have the carts delivered for August 18th, and then we will hopefully start distribution prior to September 1st. Once we get that date finalized, we will be communicating that. We will be communicating more of what that plan looks like, but we are just in the stages of making sure that we're finalizing all the details in terms of how many carts that we have per household, making sure that list is as detailed as possible, going back and forth with the building commissioner and the assessor to make sure we've highlighted all the ADUs and highlighted all the in-laws that have been permitted that we know about, and just making that list as clean as possible. In addition to that, we did have a call with them today. Rarig is the company that we're using for the purchase of the carts, and we did talk about a QR code that would be placed on the cart, like we had mentioned, which would be a really great opportunity for us to engage with residents and to provide necessary information. We also have on our website currently an area where people can report missed pickups and things of that nature. So it could be very simple as not having to log onto a website, finding your trash not taken, even though it's recycling, and scanning the QR code and putting in that your, recycling was taken, but your trash was not. So again, giving people real-time information and a real way to interact with the town, which is great because it is being highlighted as a pilot program right now, so it's not necessarily something that many communities have, and if it is something that becomes successful, Groveland will be one of the first communities to test that out.
Can I just?
Can I,
Oh.
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I know we spoke about this, and I didn't know where it ended up. If people want to get rid of whatever they've been using for their recycling, are we doing any kind of a pickup, or have we not really come around on
So
it?
we did not include that as part of the original proposal, understanding that we will be moving forward with an automated system come July 1. So given the amount of households, given the rollout, given all the information that we'll receive as part of this process, we would then be able to understand what the cost would be for each of those households who wanted to dispose of that additional recycling bin and/or trash bin all together at one point in time. Whether or not they take them at the same time, being like, instead of the town paying for it to come out once and then have to do the same thing for the trash if there's additional trash, we thought we would wait and get a more accurate understanding of the climate, as the environment as a whole, and then go and say, listen, if you want your old recycling and trash bin picked out, it's this day, put it at the curb, and we've already arranged for the hauler to come and pick that up at no cost to
Okay, I got it.
and included in the cost of the purchase of the carts.
Kathy asked my question. Can we just, when we publish information about when they're going to be picked up, can we just make sure residents are aware of that we're going to have a program in the future for them to get rid of their
100%.
existing carts?
So we're going to do two things. There's going to be the QR code, which could very well give us a way to just do it right there. And then we'll have a little website and a little page that they can go to. And then we're also going to include like a flyer that's going to be attached to the handle. So when it's delivered, it will be facing outward. So you'll see the flyer, you'll see our seal, you'll understand what it is that we're doing, and we can put in a little blurb about that would be happening in the future.
Yeah, I just don't want to see people pay to get rid of them if we're going to if they can throw them behind their shed for a year and we'll pick them up for them or something.
100%.
And I imagine that they're all recyclable, so if you're handy enough and can cut it up into small enough pieces, just put it in your recycle bin.
Oh,
Just make sure it's flat so you're not throwing away a lot of air. And it doesn't get jammed into this recycle bin. Because if you jam it in, then it might be hard for them to get it out. In most cases, they probably would just leave it in there. But if you cut it up in small enough pieces, like all the cardboard, and stack it properly, you can get a tremendous amount into your recycle bins.
Question on that, Jason?
Yes,
On the recycling carts, are they going to be coded to each residence?
Correct. So it'll be dedicated to the address, and we're also taking into consideration when there's multiple units on that address, so making sure that we understand that which parcel ID is receiving 2 carts, who's receiving 1, documenting that, and then the company will then be putting on, this was delivered, if there was an issue, or the parcel was vacant, and all those notes will then be shared back with the town, giving us a better comprehensive list for when we do this for the trash. So, moving forward, the field use and property use special event permit, we did issue a field use permit for the Pentucket Youth Softball for the Pine Softball Field. It says for the dates, we're looking at July 13th, 20th, 27th, August 3rd, Sunday, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m., and then weekday practices on July 16th through the 18th, the 21st to the 25th, and the 28th from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. For important upcoming dates, we have the planning board meeting Tuesday, July 22nd, which is tomorrow, and then we have the recreation committee meeting on Monday, July 28th. For grants at the next meeting, the strategic IT roadmap was completed as part of the FY25 Community Compact IT Planning Grant and will be included on the next agenda for review and discussion. For procurement, we had 2026-3, a new computer for the EDPC office, and then 2026-6, which is the MyMap contract. That's a renewal process for the aerial GIS imagery that we use. And then for technical review conferences, we did have a technical review conference recently. It was for 932 Salem Street, and a group is looking to establish a gym in one of the garages that's located behind the residence at 932 Salem Street. And that's the property that was Larry Kelly's property over on Salem Street. So there's like the White House out in the front, and then there's the parcel right next to it, and that's the yard that he had. So those properties are now under the same ownership, so they're looking to develop that particular area. For meetings, events, and seminars, they're listed below, and I'm happy to answer any additional information, or provide any additional information on those meetings.
Anybody have any questions for Rebecca?
Nope.
Ed?
Yes, going back to the Salem Street Dam, the Conservation Commission issued a emergency order.
Correct.
And how did the DEP know that it had been started? Did they receive paperwork on that?
So I don't know if they knew that it was started, but they received the emergency certification. So the Conservation Commission, once they sign that, send over a copy to Mass DEP. Mass DEP has, I believe, 7 days to issue an opinion from the receipt of that. And at that point in time, they decided to revoke the certificate of emergency certification. But at the same time, as we had discussed, the town only has 30 days from the date that the certification is signed to complete the work. So we believe that we acted within the best interest of the public safety and moved accordingly with the process that was outlined, and have every intention of filing an NOI. And the water's filling back up in Meadow Pond, the pipe is secure. So we do feel as though that we acted in the best interest of the community.
So it was the notice of intent should have been filed with that?
So they wanted us to file that notice of intent before performing the work. We knew that the process for filing a notice of intent was a little lengthy, and we needed to act quickly for the emergency certification to happen. So we filed for an emergency certification, which we received from the Conservation Commission, but ultimately the Mass DEP has the right to review. And they said that they should not have issued the emergency certification without getting a notice of intent.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions for Rebecca? As seeing none, we'll go to select board members' time. Ed?
I don't have anything.
Steve?
Just what's mentioned in the agenda for a future agenda item. I'd like to talk about looking at whether we should have a surcharge associated with our permits for fields if people don't clean up after themselves. I think it's come up a few times. I know I've heard from some residents about it, and to me, it would kind of make sense.
Yeah, it might be beneficial to look at some of the other towns and what they do, particularly, I would refer to Lynch Park and what they do down there, because I know they don't have any type of trash receptacles. It's carry in, carry out. So what type of penalties they, and how they enforce it might be a good place to start looking.
That's all I have.
Becky?
Yes, you're gonna have to refresh my memory. The 150 Center Street, the like expression of interest, was that deadline moved out? Was there any feelers from that? Did we?
So we did have a conversation about that. We did not receive
Okay.
any responses, and we
Okay.
believe that it was tied because of, due to the zoning and the
Okay.
fact that the zoning was not in place for that particular site. So we believe that developers didn't think that we were interested in proceeding. So we applied for a mass development grant to assist with the creation of zoning.
Okay.
We should be hearing from the Community One Stop program, which houses the mass development program that we applied to in October, November timeframe. So we'll be able to know next steps at that point in time.
I'll write it down this time. My other question kind of prompts from the conversation we had today. Is there such thing as a paperless town hall? I know you guys love paper, but Do any town halls do that? Maybe not completely paperless, like I understand that there needs to be documents, but with the new website, with the documents on demand, could that be leveraged to try to encourage maybe being a little bit more paperless?
So we are making every attempt possible to do just that.
Yeah.
As you know, with the Burke grant that the building commissioner had applied for, he has a digitization of the building records. You know, with the town clerk, she had applied, or the former town clerk had applied for the digitization of the town reports. So we do make every effort to digitize as much as we possibly can, but to your point, there are certain documents that we are required to have on file. So our big push has been mainly to get rid of all the excess. So if we're required, for example, on the planning side, to hold a subdivision application and approve and decision, but every single peer review associated with that document is no longer necessary legally to have on file,
Yeah.
we would digitize as much as we possibly could for all the peer reviews, and then just keep that one copy of the application and one copy of the decision. So a file, you can imagine, that's like miles long, like the table in front of you, and then put, just to 3 pieces of paper is kind of what we've been aiming towards, so that we can meet the regulatory requirements, but then also get rid of as much paper as possible. So we are making many efforts to do so, but definitely if there's other ways that you can suggest that we look into, we're more than willing to do so.
Digitization would be after the fact. You'd have that paper to digitize, or would it?
So, and and that's the thing too, for example, like, and I think maybe the same for Conservation Commission, is that it's really hard to, from a planning perspective, to meet the regulatory requirements when you're required to take a document and get it time-stamped at the clerk's office.
Right.
And that timestamp starts the process as to when and if appeals and things can happen. But then we also see that kind of get cut down in other communities that do different permit softwares that will allow you to submit some of that documentation online, but still have that one formal application.
Right.
And we have been looking into a little bit more how that's done, so that we can meet those requirements. And having the town planner conservation agent position will help us be able to get a little bit more about what we could do to limit the amount of paper that's required to be submitted.
And then another question I have for you. So on June 11th, the running sum of impacted funding, federal funding to Massachusetts was at $386 million. As of July 18th, it's up to $714 million federal funding that is not coming to Massachusetts. Anything affected from us yet?
Not necessarily in Groveland, other than what could potentially be impacted in the Pawtucket Regional School District, which I would not have information
Right.
for until they reported that to us.
Okay. And then my last thing is really for you, Jason. I had mentioned the marijuana establishment bylaw, thinking about revisiting that. I don't know if we can put that on the next agenda, or if that's something that should stay with zoning first,
Well, I think it would stay with the planning board.
or
It was
planning?
the Economic Development Planning, it was the Economic Development Committee.
Okay.
And the chairman did not seek reappointment, which
Okay.
is why it got put on hold. So I reached out to the vice chair, who actually sent out an email today to
Okay.
see whether or not the committee could convene, so that they could assemble what they did put together and put it before the select board.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you.
And because I believe the planning board has been discussing that as well, and they're the ones that would put forth zoning.
So they did not, so.
No,
the-
but they would be the party that puts forth zoning? No.
No, just the party that would hear the zoning that was proposed by the Economic Development Committee, because they did not write it.
Right. But if it was to move forward, the planning board would be the person to put it through, the body to put the zoning through,
It would go through the public hearing process before the planning board,
before the planning board.
and they would make a recommendation. It would be unfavorable, but they would make a recommendation. They're
Who
ultimately
holds the public hearing?
the planning board.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. So they might be a good place to start to discuss it with them as well,
Okay,
so they can, because I know there's discussion on the planning board about doing just that. But then again, there's members from the planning board that are on the economic development, so it's a lot of crossover.
yes,
As I sit on the planning board myself.
yes. With papers.
Yes,
Okay, that's all I had.
that's it?
Yep.
Nope, I don't have anything. I had my say earlier, so hope everyone's enjoying their summer.
Yes, it's a great summer. I've got just a couple things. Whittier Regional Vocational Technical High School has a newsletter. I recommend everybody subscribe to it, get a little bit more information on what's going on over there. They also have a graduation that they put in there that they're asking everybody to join us as we celebrate the graduation of 100 adult students from Whittier Tech Career Technical Initiative, CTI, a Commonwealth Corporation-funded summer program that equips unemployed or underemployed adults with the skills and tools and certifications to transform their lives and contribute meaningfully to our economy. So some of the programs that they do outside of just with regular students that really help support Massachusetts' economy. So it's fun to learn some things about what they do and how they do them. So I do recommend that everybody subscribe to that and get it and read it. And with that, I think our next regular scheduled meeting is Monday, August 4th, 2025 at 6:30.
Make a motion to adjourn at 8:35 PM?
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, Jason.